Good evening, everyone. Hello. Welcome to our live this evening. I am really happy to be here to share some personal experiences around IVF and fertility and skincare in particular. And I'm going to be joined by Sarah Banks, who is a fertility emotional support coach. And yeah, we're just going to have a chat about all things fertility and anything that we can help you guys with. Now, absolutely no question is off tonight, so please do feel free to ask questions as we go. We are going to do a giveaway as well. So again, I'm just adding Lucy as our moderator here. Lucy is my social media manager, so thanks Lucy for joining us tonight. But yeah, we are going to do a giveaway throughout this evening, so do stay with us, ask questions as I said, and absolutely nothing will be off the radar. So let's see if I can find Sarah. Should be coming in very shortly. Accept. There we go, I think.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi Sarah, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yes, very well.
Good.
I can. There you are.
Yeah.
How are you?
There you go. Are you all right?
I'm good, thank you. Yes, I am indeed. I'm absolutely freezing today, mind you. I don't know what's going on after yesterday being so nice, or well, it was here anyway.
It's nice here as well, and then it's just, I think it sort of loaded us into a false sense of security because suddenly it's pouring down here and really cold again.
Oh, I know. I don't know what's going on, but it certainly helps the mood, doesn't it?
Yeah. I know, we need a bit more sunshine.
We do. So anyway, yeah, I was just updating everybody about what we were going to talk about tonight. Guys, I think this works. So if you tag somebody in the comment below that you know might be struggling with IVF treatments or fertility or going through those challenges, if you tag them below, I think they will get notified and they can get invited into the live. We do have a blog, so Sarah and I have written a blog together, and that has been published on the SKINICIAN website, so we will share that link afterwards as well, and you can read up about everything. We'll not go too technical tonight, so anything that you have you can read up on afterwards. But Sarah, maybe we start with, tell us a bit about yourself and what you do.
Okay, so yeah, well, I think a good place to start is probably our personal experience because it started off everything that I do now. So we struggled. I've been with my husband since we were 18. It was about a year or so after we got married that we decided to try for a baby. And we just thought, like everybody does, that it had happened straight away. And unfortunately, that was the start of a 6-year journey for us and 2 rounds of IVF. So it was a really difficult time. And certainly while we were going through it, there was just no support around at all from the clinic. Everybody we knew had fallen pregnant naturally, so we didn't know anybody who'd been through treatment. We had our first cycle, which unfortunately was unsuccessful. We went on and had a second cycle, which thankfully was, and we have a 10-year-old son now, our little IVF miracle. So after, well, even while I was pregnant, I knew I wanted to change. I worked as a senior buyer in a big retail company. I wanted to do something that was different, and I wanted to support people who'd been going through the same journey I'd been through because there was so little support. So I retrained to be a life coach so that I could better support people and set up support groups. We were really lucky. I fell pregnant naturally with my daughter, so we have a little girl as well. And I now work with organisations. So I work with clinics to increase the support that patients are getting while they go through treatment. I work with organisations to improve the support for their employees. And I have my IVF positivity planner, which I launched in 2019, I think it is now. Yeah, it's a coaching journal for people who are going through treatment that I've wrote basically with what I needed and what people in my support groups tell me they need. So yeah, my personal journey is what drove me to everything I'm doing now, because I really feel like we need to improve the experience for those who are unfortunate enough to have to go through fertility treatment, or who need it because things aren't happening naturally for them.
That's right, yeah. So again, I'm coming at this from a personal perspective. Obviously, I am the co-founder of SKINICIAN. For anybody that doesn't know, it's a family business, my mother and I run the business now. Again, very personal journey that is exactly the same as yours. And I think that's just where our connection lies with Andy, etc. as well. So again, 5-6 year journey. First IVF was not successful. Second IVF was, and we have Ryan, who is 7, and then Charlotte came along naturally, which it just blows my mind. And I think it goes to everybody does have a different journey. And I think for me, this is all about, if we can just help one person this evening, that's our job done, because it's much easier to talk to somebody who has been through the journey themselves. And I know we get asked, a lot of questions about skin and how fertility treatments or hormones, etc., affect skin. And your skin's very visible, so you obviously that knock-on effect, but it's not just the medications and the injections. Yes, that absolutely boosts the hormones within, obviously for eggs, etc. But the stress can also, and anxiety can also come out and be shown in skin. Not sleeping properly comes out and shows itself in different ways in skin. So there's such common issues that
Yeah.
I think it's something that you mentioned as well. A lot of your clients will actually ask you questions about, did you suffer with your skin? And look, everybody is different at the end of the day, but it's very, very common, and that's okay. We're just here to help. And I have to say, the IVF journal that you have is absolutely brilliant. I wish I had something like that at that stage.
Yeah, and I think it's just that having that support resource there and understanding, and like you say, this session tonight is about that as well. And I think another thing we spoke about when we started talking about doing this is how you already feel like your confidence is quite low when you're going through treatment. You're already having to pump yourself full of hormones. You might not be feeling great. You might not feel like you look great. And then if you've got skin breakouts as well, it's just another layer of feeling a bit rubbish because you're going through treatment. And we want to do everything we can sort of make that experience better. And also I do find I get a lot of questions around what's safe to use, what's safe to take when people are going through treatment. I think there's that lack of understanding because there's not really much information around about what's safe. And I think we're all probably the same. When you're going through treatment, you want to do everything you can to try and make it work, and you don't want to be doing things that you feel like afterwards you could blame yourself for, which it's not about blaming yourself, and it should never be that.
No.
But we do look at things like that, and I think having that understanding it will be helpful to people as well.
Yeah, sure. So I guess if we just touch on the basics of skin, you are pumping yourself full of those injections, so estrogen, progesterone, and if you think about it, you're actually increasing the estrogen levels by 10 whenever you're injecting your cells for that initial stage for egg stimulation. So it's not a surprise that this then shows up in skin, and that can be anything from people producing more oil, so your skin becomes oilier literally overnight, which can then lead to breakouts and acne and clog pores, etc. So that's one area. It can actually lead to less oil production in the skin as well. So you may suffer from dry or dehydration or irritation on the skin. Some people, I would have said I have quite red colouring anyway, so I would have been flushing with quite red cheeks, things like that, and then irritation. So anything that was too strong. Um, at SKINICIAN, we always say, listen to your skin. Your skin is going to tell you what's actually going on. So there's an absolute host of things that can happen, but they are the most common. Pigmentation might be the other. That's quite common whenever you're actually pregnant, but it can also lead to that increase or melasma. Um, It really depends. It really depends. And as I say, literally overnight, that might happen. There was a study in 2018, I'm just looking at my stats here, that around 27% of patients undergoing IVF experience skin changes to their skin. And the most common was actually red, round, welt-like rash, like hives almost. So it just, yeah, and that was, I think, kind of 20% of those patients actually that was the most common. So it can show up in any form.
Yeah.
There's obviously, you asked the question there about what's safe to use. That's quite important as well, because I think when you start reading up about everything, you want everything. It comes from a safety perspective first and foremost, doesn't it? And I guess so. Opting for more gentle ingredients, so like the likes of AHAs as exfoliants as opposed to salicylic acid, that is leave-on. Retinoids would be another one that we wouldn't really typically recommend while trying to conceive and being pregnant. And then on the flip side, there's the likes of the antioxidants, and that can come from food, it can come from topical skincare, and it's really about putting the best into your body that you're getting the most out of that. And antioxidants is really important for your protective barrier and how your cells work, etc. So those are the kind of common ingredients that we would recommend, and the likes of niacinamide, and obviously SPF, really important for absolutely everybody to protect their skin from SPF, but especially anybody suffering from those sensitivities. And if somebody has itchy, irritable skin, we would say try to use fragrance-free products, not using the likes of sulfates, not using really harsh alcohol, parabens, things that are actually potentially harmful to the skin. So yeah, there's lots and lots there. As I mentioned, just everybody, we are going to do a giveaway this evening. So Sarah has very kindly suggested an IVF planner, and I am also going to give away a skincare bundle. So if you would like to win this evening, all we're doing is asking you to comment #win, and we will choose a winner at the end of the live. Anyway,
Sorry, with all those things that you've mentioned there, could people find those on the product? So if they're unsure about whether it contains those things, can they find it on products that they're using? Then should it be listed?
Yes. So we call it an INCI list, so the ingredients list are at the back. Now, some common names like vitamin C is not typically listed as vitamin C because that's a different terminology as in the pure ingredient. So sometimes it could be quite hard to decipher what is what within ingredient list, but any reputable company should have that very clearly listed out and make it easy for people to research online. We have a full ingredient bank online, which is a really good resource for people to list. And again, the likes of vitamin C and vitamin E, which work to be really protective of the skin, we have those items listed in our blog. Not coming at it from a full routine perspective. As you know, Sarah, at SKINICIAN, we are all about trying to cut back, ditch that 15-step routine. You don't need it, and especially going through treatment, consistency is the most important. That if anything, you need to clean your skin, you need to hydrate your skin, you need to protect your skin. If that's all you do while you're going through treatment and that works for you, that the consistency is the important part. But yes, you should be able to read all about ingredients.
Oh, okay. And that consistency and that 3-step simplified routine is great, because when you're going through treatment, you're already thinking, well, I've got to do my injections, I've got to take this medication, I've got to do that. Having a simplified routine where it is just those 3 steps, it's a lot less that you have to do or feel like you should be doing to sort of look after your skin and protect yourself, isn't it? Yeah. Which is great.
And we come at this, especially this topic, from a self-care perspective as well. Just a really nice simplified routine at the end of the day is 3 minutes or 5 minutes just for you. And again, we try to make that easy. But for example, on a Sunday, and I've always continued on this kind of regime, but take the time, and that's when you can do a mask and you can do little massage movements on your face, etc. So it really helps you connect with yourself. And my IVF, my first one was around Christmas, and the Christmas tree lights were on, and I would put on my face, and then I would lie and meditate with the Christmas tree lights on. And honestly, I absolutely love that, because it is kind of half an hour for yourself. And obviously, coming from a professional skincare background, it's all about touch and personal touch. So for me, the power of touch and just that little bit of self-love for yourself can only help.
Yeah. And it can be maybe made into a bit of a routine when you're doing your injections as well, sort of, because I think when you do that and you take control of that and make it part of a routine, it suddenly stops being something that you've got to do and becomes something that's nice. And maybe that you know, do your skincare routine, and then while you're doing that, your injections become part of that. You know, just to make it a bit more of a less of a chore and something to dread.
Yeah, and I think, like you say, it's putting it into your routine what works for you at the end of the day. And if you have the products sitting at night time whenever you're doing something else, then you're more likely to use them. And that's still the case today. You have to put them where you're going to use them, or you just don't have time. You forget.
Yeah. That's it. I'm the same. So that's great. And like I say, the simplified routine is a great way of giving you less to do,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah, absolutely. One question has just come in there. Can you have Botox before IVF? We would recommend, and dermatologists would recommend not to, because there's nothing regulated around Botox, and there's not enough research to suggest that you can or you can't. So we don't recommend it. Thank you
Yeah.
for the
And
question.
I'd always check with your clinic as well. With anything like that, you just don't know how things can interact with medication that you're on, and you wouldn't want to do that and find that it then delays things. So yeah, I would say it's always best checking with your clinic as well about things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody that's just joined us, we are just having a chat about very personal IVF journeys. But if anybody has any questions, do pop them below in the question section. We are also doing a giveaway this evening. Sarah has very kindly donated an IVF journal, and I'm going to give away a skincare pack, personalized pack for somebody who can follow a really simple routine. If you do want to be in with a chance of winning, just hashtag win in the comments section, and we'll pick a winner later. One question, Sarah, I have for you is, how, it's a question that we got asked, how can I feel more in control going through IVF or trying to conceive?
It's something that comes up all the time, and it's something that I really felt as well. People feel really out of control when they're going through treatment, because you're having to sort of put everything in the hands of your consultants, really, and people feel like they haven't got much control. But the good news is there is things that you can do. You can take back control of some areas. So firstly, lifestyle, and skincare fits brilliantly into that. So thinking about your lifestyle, so making sure that you're eating well, that you're getting enough rest, that you're looking after yourself. Some of the more obvious things about stopping smoking, cutting down or stopping alcohol, stopping like recreational drugs, things like that, where they can and have been proven to affect your fertility. So there's a lot of lifestyle things you can take control of to make sure that your body's in the best state it can be for going through treatment, or even conceiving naturally if you're still at that point. So lifestyle things, have a think about what things you can take control of lifestyle wise, and things like supplements or good skincare routines so that you're taking that time are great ones for that. Another thing you can take control of is your mindset and your emotional side, and again, that time out for yourself. So we become so focused on treatment and what's coming up and our appointments and injections and medication that we forget to take time out for ourselves, and it sort of becomes the bottom priority, really. So have a think about what you need to do to get your mind in the best place for going through treatment. So what is it that relaxes you or distracts you or helps you work through those emotions. So it could be things like journaling or meditating or getting support that you need from whoever that is. There's so many different places, and we can come on because we could talk for ages on support, and we can talk about that further after. But having to think about what support you need and how to get your mind in the best state for going through treatment. And then any practical things, so you can research treatment so you know what's coming, and you can plan things around your treatment so that you know you've got something to look forward to. Or when we were going for our second transfer, it was due to snow, and we were panicking about making it across to Manchester from where we live, on the M62. So we booked a hotel the night before, because for us that just meant it took away some of that worry,
Yeah.
of how we would get to the clinic or if we'd be there in time. So some of the practical things you can take control of as well. And it's just, if you can make a list of things that you can control, it just gives us something to work on so that we feel like we're doing something to help the chances of our treatment working, but also you're looking after yourself both physically and emotionally as well.
Okay, yeah, no, that's great. I think from my perspective, I did reflexology maybe once a week, and it was so relaxing. It was the only thing that I could switch off to. And male massage, so abdominal massage. Now that isn't for everyone, but because I had such a low egg count, which was my problem, uh, that for me was just helping stimulate anything there. I was trying absolutely everything. Um, but yeah, certainly looking after yourself, and it is about time for yourself at the end, and your partner as well, because
Yeah.
it is a really difficult time, and especially over a prolonged period of time as well. Like, it is challenging, there's no doubt. Um, I think mindset is a massive thing, and the only one thing that I could ever, with everything that we got thrown at us, was, you know what, there's always somebody in a worse situation.
Yeah.
There's always somebody in a worse situation. And if you had your down days, you kick yourself up the bum. And I literally was like, you know what? I have a womb. I'm not being told I can't carry children. If I had to, I was going to go for egg donation. I'd already checked all of that out. For me, it was, I wanted a family. I wanted the child. How I got that child was, I was open to everything and anything. And I think by opening up and talking to people as well, because it was actually a friend who said, oh, do you know, my kids were actually egg donation because I had no eggs. And I was like, oh my goodness, really? And
Yeah.
that just opened my mind to, you know what, actually, if it's the end result that you want, then you will find a way to get there. So there's always an alternative. And I do think mindset is important.
Yeah, definitely. And the thing for me that helped was I used to just keep saying to myself, there's no point worrying about it, because all I'm going to do is cause myself problems now, but it won't affect the outcome. So I can worry and worry and worry. It won't change what will happen. If anything, it's just going to make it worse, because I felt bad all that time, or it, I'd sort of say to myself, well, worrying could just cause more problems. So actually, and I used to say it to myself all the time, and I'd be saying, anytime I found myself like in that negative spiral, I used to say to myself, there's no point worrying, you're just making yourself feel worse for it. Just try to park it and don't keep getting into that spiral. And no, I agree in what you were saying, sort of almost that having the backup plan. For us, we'd kind of said that, well, if it doesn't work, then we'd be open to adoption, and we'd look at that. And I think it's so personal to everyone. And I think you made a key point about talking to somebody who's been through it, who can validate exactly what you're feeling, because that there's an extra sort of level there about looking at sort of needing to use donor eggs or sperm, and to be able to speak to somebody who's been through that, who can tell you what it was like, how their feelings, how they felt while they were going through it, how they feel now. I think having somebody who can validate your feelings just makes you feel less alone, doesn't it? Because I
Absolutely.
really felt like nobody understood what I was going through. And especially after our failed cycle, I was absolutely devastated. I couldn't stop crying. And I just felt like nobody understood, because it was like, well, you didn't have anything to lose. What, you've not lost a baby. Why are you so upset? And people don't understand how devastating it is when you've had a failed cycle. And actually you're grieving for a loss of what you thought could be this baby that you thought, the loss of your embryos. And I think being able to speak to somebody who fully understands that is great, isn't it? Because it's just knowing you're not alone, and that actually it's normal to feel that way takes away some of that pressure and that sort of guilt.
Yeah, that's actually a question that's come through. Did you tell people you were going through IVF?
We told very few people, so a few of our friends knew, and it was only when it got to the point that we were going through treatment. And I remember telling my mum, and we were going out for the day, and I was devastated. I think I must have come on my period, and I needed to go for some initial tests doing because of that. So I'd had to ring the clinic, and we were due to go out, and I had to tell, and I was just terrified, and I just burst into tears and sort of told her, and it did make things easier once she knew, because she then wasn't constantly like referring to the fact that she thought she was never going to have grandchildren, which she used to do quite a lot.
Yeah.
She suddenly understood, but we told very few friends. And even the friends that knew, I would say, as much as they were kind of would check in that we were okay, they still didn't understand, because then when some of those friends became pregnant themselves, they would sit either side of me complaining about pregnancy symptoms, and it was just devastating, because as much as they then were sort of sympathizing, they didn't fully understand to be able to fully support us. So it's really difficult. I think it's finding a balance with not wanting to be constantly asked about it, or people knowing and talking about it, but also having that support there as well. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know
no,
about you.
I think we have very similar. The first round of IVF, as I said, was coming up to Christmas, and we didn't tell anybody. Now, all of our friends knew, because obviously being married, we were in our 30s when we got married, so it was like, well, when are you, or whatever's happening. So they knew it was coming, but I never ever said when. And only parents knew at that stage. But second time round, I lived a normal life. We went away on holiday. I had a couple of drinks every night on holiday, got a good dose of vitamin D, and everybody knew that that was coming up. And I actually found it much more helpful the second time round, because people really wanted it to work for you. And then, like, again, they weren't asking, well, are you still waiting on an appointment? Are you still doing this? Are you still doing that? So it was just much easier. And actually, by opening up, I just found, now we're talking 8, 9 years ago, you're similar, 10, 12 years ago, and it still wasn't talked about then. It just wasn't talked about. Whereas by opening up, I would say, like, I've been able to help 3 or 4 friends through something now, because I was so open second time round. Now, I wasn't putting it on social media, but yeah, I was open. So each to their own. Everybody has a different way of dealing with things. And then the other experience I guess I would have now is, as an employer, I have known people to be coming up for IVF cycles, and I'm like, we're here to support you. And if we don't know that, we can't support you with those appointments and everything that's going on there. And it just makes their life easier as well if some people do know. And yeah, I guess whenever you start opening up about it, it'll be like, oh yeah, well, I had that issue, or I had that issue, or yeah. And there's very few people nowadays that do not have some sort of fertility issue.
Yeah.
It's quite scary.
And I think, like you say, when we'd been through it and I started talking about it, because I was setting up my business and the support groups, the amount of people that messaged me that I'd worked with, or that were either going through it now or had been through it, and I just kept saying, I wish we'd both known. I wish we'd told each other that we were going through this, because we could have supported each other. And I think there's still like a bit of a taboo around it, and people don't want to say, because it is so private, and there's lots of different reasons why people don't tell anybody what they're going through. But it's so validating when you speak to somebody who says, I feel like that as well. And that's why I set up the support groups, because I felt like if I feel like this, there must be lots of other people who just wish they knew someone else who was going through it. And yeah, from a work's point of view, I think as an employee, so I told my manager, which just made it easier when I was having appointments, because there's only so many times you've got a plumber coming round, or you've got a dentist appointment, and it becomes really difficult to start hiding why you're going for appointments all the time. And a few of my colleagues, when I had my egg collection, I told them I was going for like minor stomach operation, because we'd got a big review to Marks and Spencer's, where I worked for at the time, and we've got a big review, and we'd never be able to take the day off. And as it happened, I had to take it off for my egg collection. So I told them I was going for like a minor stomach operation, so that it didn't really invite many questions. I just wasn't ready for everybody to know. But having my manager and I think one colleague that knew just meant that they could help manage when there was questions or hide the fact I was at appointments as well.
Yeah, yeah. But like I say, everybody has a different way of dealing with it, and there's no right or wrong. You do what's right for you at that stage, and hopefully people are supportive and more aware these days would be the other. I
Yeah,
think we have
definitely.
another question here. So IVF hormones may affect skin and cause more spots. What can I use to help with breakouts? So um from a skin perspective, that's likely overproduction of oil. And we would say our purifying line really helps to gently deal with that excess oil production. We've got the likes of grapeseed oil, chamomile for calming, but also then the likes of witch hazel, which is a natural ingredient to really, try and control that. If somebody does have acne, we talk about calming the skin before treating the skin. So again, you want to be putting lots of antioxidants in there. You want to be using really calming ingredients. You want to be using fragrance-free products, and really protective. SPF is obviously a must for absolutely everybody. So yeah, there's different ways to control that. Now, you're told not to use retinol, but if somebody came to me and said, this is really affecting me, I am really unhappy, until you're pregnant, retinol is vitamin A, and that can be harmful to the baby, etc. So if somebody was trying to conceive and have really bad acne and it was going to help them, I might say, well, look, you do use it sparingly. If that helps clear it up, get it cleared up and then stop using it. So everybody is different. Everybody needs a personalized routine. So you've got a skin type, and then you also have skin concerns. And that is where everybody needs a different routine. And even I like to talk about skincare wardrobe, because even in different seasons your skin needs different things. It should be like your wardrobe. It needs different ingredients and different products as you go through the winter, which will naturally dry out your skin, your inside, all of the time, whereas in the summer you might be more oily or more dry. So listen, that, yeah, we could talk all day, and there's different routines, there's different ingredients, there's different products, but we're here to help. So you can DM us. We also do skin consultations as well, or there's a skin analyzer quiz. Obviously, if you can get into a salon, you will have a much better treatment and quicker results by doing in salon treatments and a little bit of time just for you, or and doing that home care routine. And of course, somebody can then really look at your skin and see what it needs as well. So that's that question. Let me see if we have any more. One question that's come through that you could probably help with, Sarah, is where can I get support?
There's so much support out there now. It has got so much better over the years. Different levels as well. So I think this is another thing where everybody is individual in what support they need and they want. So you can get the support level that's right for you. So your clinic should have access or provide access to a counsellor. So you could see a counsellor linked to your clinic. If you can't access them, or you've tried and you don't really gel with them, then you can look on the BICA website. So that is the British Infertility Counselling Association. So if you feel like you want the level of support of a counsellor, which I'd always recommend speaking to somebody, because there's so many deep emotions that come with it. You can look on bica.net, so BICA, bica.net, to find local counsellors to use. So those are self-funded ones. But if you were really wanting someone who was specially trained in infertility, they're great for that. Support groups are brilliant. So there's lots of in-person ones or online ones. So I run an online one that's called TTC Support UK and another called IVF Support. So I set up the IVF Support one to give more in-depth IVF support, whereas the TTC Support UK does have people who are just starting to, on their fertility journey. The Fertility Network, which is the UK charity for fertility, has a big list of support groups. So it has lots of different local ones that you can access on there. It has different minority group support groups, male-only support groups, so you can find ones that are right for you. There's also support if you're going or looking at things like surrogacy or using donors. You can find support groups that are right for you, because it's an extra level of support that you need. And I know when I speak to people, they say they don't quite feel like they fit in normal support groups because they want that extra level of support. There's lots of different holistic therapists, so people like reflexologists and acupuncturists, as much as they do physical like support on you, they're great talking therapists as well. So they're great if you prefer that kind of thing. And then places like Instagram, there's so many accounts now that share their own personal stories, advice, things like that. So you can get support through there. But it's finding, as I said, what's right for you. Some people, it might be having that peer support, the support group. For some, it might be they want a lot more professional support in the form of a counsellor. There's fertility coaches. There's so many different support services now. Fertility Network's a great place to get started, really, in terms of the support they offer. And then a lot of people have blogs and things around as well on different topics. So it's great because there is now so much more support than, like you say, it's sort of 16 years since we started our fertility journey, which makes me feel really old. It's improved so much since then.
And even the work that you're doing with consultants and people running those private clinics, like, I mean, some of the treatment that we got was shocking, really, really shocking. So hopefully with the work that you're doing, you're helping them from the other side, that they can understand that as well.
Yeah, because I've heard a lot of sort of bad comments that have been made, and I think it's just helping staff understand how to better support patients going through it. So yeah, hopefully that starts to filter through as well.
That might be another live on its own. From an Irish perspective, then we have here Irish Fertility Council Association, so that's fertilitycounsellors.ie, sims.ie, beaconcarefertility.ie. There's Women's Health Network, there's NHS stuff. So again, we have these links on our blog, so that you know, there is a good source of information there for everybody. I think one of my best recommendations, and it's what I recommend to everybody, and to be honest, I'm not sure that if I hadn't read this book that I would ever have got pregnant, because I had such a low egg count. I mean, my AMH was 1.2 or something, which was almost non-existent. So, but it's called It Starts With an Egg by Rebecca Fett. I just bought it on Amazon. I am absolutely not affiliated in any way, but that book in itself was phenomenal for me, and just the supplements that I needed to take, but even little tips about storing food in plastic containers and what that actually does for your health. So I changed the glass containers, etc. It's phenomenal, whether you believe it all or not. But at that stage, you would give anything a go. And then obviously the IVF Positivity Planner. Do you want to tell us again where you can get that, Sarah, and a bit about it?
Yeah, so I remember to bring a copy with me. So it's a 12-week journal, but it's combined with coaching questions. So when I created it, I wanted it to be a journal for people to use, but I wanted it to be something that would help them sort of look at the positives in their life and sort of how they could better take care of themselves emotionally when they were going through it. And I know kind of the word positivity, when we're talking about infertility, kind of brings up negative connotations, but it's all about what have I done today to help look after myself? How have I been kind to myself? And there's 12 weeks of journaling with just really simple prompts, just to help you think, because I find that a blank page is a little bit overwhelming. But then I wanted to combine it with the coaching questions, so goal setting around taking control and looking after your relationship and self-care, so that you were focusing on that, and a monthly planner so that you could plan in all your self-care time, or just even just 5 minutes each day to take time out. So there's a lot of coaching questions. There's exercises to help you focus on what's going well in your life and how you can take control and managing some of those negative thoughts. And then there's a full treatment section in it, so you can put down all your questions to take to your consultant, because I always used to forget what I wanted to ask and then be crying all the way through my appointment, so that I forget everything I was told. So I wanted there to be space where you could write down kind of everything you wanted to ask and all the answers, but also giving you tips on how to manage the injections, coping around egg collection, things like that. So there is a treatment section as well, and also a kind of a support section for if treatment sadly doesn't work, because I didn't want it to just be something that if it doesn't work, you don't have that support around you.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's the feedback I get is really positive, which is, you know, is really lovely, because it's something that I've written myself and self-published, and it's always nice to know that it is helping people. And as I say, it was created with what I needed and what the people I support now tell me that they need as well. So you can get it on my website, which is www.positivityplanners.com. It's also available on Etsy and Amazon as well, so you can get it in lots of places. Yeah. And if you do the hashtag win in this live, then you might be in a chance with winning one as well. Well, you will be in a chance for a chance of winning one.
Great, thank you. We've got one more question then. So, how can partners help those going through IVF? I'll let you have this one, Sarah.
I think it's just communicating, so keep talking to each other. I think it's very difficult. Obviously, when you're going through treatment, the medical side has to be done to like the female partner or the birthing partner, if you're in a same-sex couple. So it has to be the majority of the medical side of treatment is done on that partner. So it's just a case of being there for your partner and communicating about how you're feeling, so that you're not building up resentment towards one another. Keep talking about how you're feeling about treatment, how you want to progress going forwards. Make time for each other away from fertility treatment, because otherwise every conversation you have is about treatment, and you just become two people who are going through IVF rather than a couple. So taking that time out together gives you that space away from it, and just set some non-baby talk or non-IVF talk time, so that you're having that time, just the two of you. I think it's understanding each other's needs, because I think there can be resentment built up. They don't seem as bothered as I am, or they're, you know, more upset than I am. I'm less upset than they are, and worrying about that. So I think talking to each other all the time, but also having support away from each other, so you're not completely reliant on each other's support or just leaning on each other, because then one or both partners can start to feel a bit like they're there just to hold the other one up. And a lot of men tell me that they feel they have to stay strong when their partner's going through treatment, because they have to be the strong one supporting them, because they're the ones being pumped full of hormones and having to go through this side of things. And then actually another really big thing that I'd say certainly helped us, and it's something I say, whoever's side the problem is on, don't see it as her problem, his problem, see it as a joint problem. You're trying to create a baby together, and I think that's where resentment builds. If you're blaming it, it's not happening because of their problem. And that's when you start to get that resentment. And I think seeing it as a joint problem that you have to overcome together is really important.
Yeah, it's definitely not an easy time. Right, I think we've got another one here, haven't we? How much time would you recommend between transfers?
It's a totally individual choice, and there might be sort of medical issues or medical reasons why you need to wait. So certainly between my failed cycle and my next cycle, I had to go back on the pill because my cycles were really irregular. So from a medical point of view, I think everybody's situation is different. And then even from an emotional point of view, I think it's just, there's a temptation to jump straight back in. And I was like that. I want it to be the next month because I want a baby and I need to just keep going.
Yeah.
And the temptation to do that, but you've got to feel strong enough, and you've got to make sure that you've given yourself that time to grieve if you need to make sure that you feel up to it as well. So it's completely up to you about how you feel. Some people just feel like they need a break because they just can't face going back onto that kind of treadmill of treatment. But other people want to just get going because they just feel like while they're in it, they need to keep going. Because I don't know about you, Shelley, but when we were going through it, I just measured time in months. Every month my period came, I was like, oh, right, next month. Let's look to next month.
Let's go. Next month. Yeah. And do you know what? I think that's probably one of the reasons my first attempt failed as well. My husband had mountain bike accident in the September, broke his back, bones everywhere, lung, oh my goodness. And he was on a concoction of painkillers and all, but we were due to start then. And I just wanted to get started. So obviously that delayed it, December, and we just were not in the right space for that. And like I said, the second time round, it was about 4 months later, but we went on holiday, we enjoyed ourselves. I went back to just normal. And there might be something in that as well. But you also know what's happening second time round. First time round is difficult. No, I never ever had any embryos left over with either. So it was one hit wonder, and that was it. So I never was able to just go back. I was going through the full back, and full 350 megagrams of hormones. So yeah, it was like you say, it just depends. But if you're not in that right headspace or trying to rush it through, I definitely think that had an impact on my first round. So
And I think that listening to your body and listening to your consultants, because when we went through our cycle, I developed OHSS, which, if people don't know, it's ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome. And they said to me I'd have to have any blastocysts would have to be frozen and done as a frozen transfer at a later date. And I was just desperate for it to go ahead. And I begged the consultant to do it anyway. And quite rightly, he told me that I couldn't. And I was so ill afterwards that I was just like, I would have put myself through that, and it potentially made it worse because I was so desperate to get moving. And actually, by the time I came around to having my fresh transfer, my body had got back to normal. The hormones from the cycle were out of the way. It had completely kind of gone back to normal, and my body was in a much better state to start treatment. I mean, it wasn't successful, unfortunately, that cycle, but my body was in a better state to get started with it than it would have been, because it was just, not kind of, my body wasn't in a great state after my egg collection. And so I think it's listening to your consultants and listening to your body and what's right for you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's where it's quite important to trust your consultant. Like, at the end of the day, we dream things up, and Dr. Google helps, obviously. And it's not helpful because they do know what they're talking about. But if you're choosing, here in Northern Ireland, we only ever got one attempt at IVF. That was it. And you had to pay, whereas in the UK, I think you can get up to 3. Is that correct?
Yeah, it totally depends where you live.
Yeah.
In Scotland, if you live in Scotland, you get 3 included. There's some local areas that don't fund any cycles. There's some that do 1, but you could get frozen transfers. Some that do 3. So you need to check your local area. But yeah, it varies completely.
Yeah.
And then there's also, it is worth checking because there are restrictions. Your BMI needs to be under 30. If you've already got a child or your partner's got a child, then sadly you can't access it on the NHS, even if you don't have a child. So there are a lot of different factors. And then same-sex couples as well who are accessing treatment, a lot have to have a certain amount of self-funded rounds before you can get treatment.
But yeah, I think just my point in that is that you trust your consultant. So if you are having to go private, that you're doing your research, you're meeting them, and that you believe what they say, because at the end of the day, you're putting it in their hands. And if you don't trust that person, it doesn't work.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Cool. Okay, well, look, we could probably talk all night, Sarah.
There's so much to cover.
I was just flicking through, and everybody's shy tonight. I know that it is a topic that not everybody maybe wants to talk about or interact with. So I think we'll do a giveaway in a different way afterwards. I am, as I mentioned, going to share the blog post, and we will have it up there. I see the questions coming in on that, so we'll do that, and we'll do a giveaway in that form. But if anybody does have any questions, please reach out. If we can help, if I can help with skin in any way, Sarah, from an emotional support perspective, and the IVF planner, please do drop us a line, because as I say, if we help one person tonight, that is all we really want to achieve.
Yeah, and like you said, I know it can be difficult asking questions on this forum, so please feel free to DM me if you've got any questions. I'll always get back to you. I'd much rather you ask than struggle on your own.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Sarah. That was a pleasure, and I am sure we have lots of other topics to talk about, menopause being one of them at some stage. So yeah, we'll jump back on and see if we can help each other there. But thank you so much, and lovely to see you this evening.
You too. Thanks so much for everybody that joined. Yeah, it's been really lovely, Shelley. We'll have to do another one if it's been helpful. Then we could do this again, couldn't we?
Absolutely, not a problem. Okay, have a lovely evening, and I'll chat to you soon.
Have a
Bye.
nice evening. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.